Ethical egoism is an explanatory framework pertaining specifically to ethics, or what we ought to do, in which fundamentally what we should do as human beings is value what would be most beneficial to us individually. The proposed problems with ethical egoism, in accordance with James Rachel's and the elements of moral philosophy, lie in the scope of the application of this ethical format and the innate emphasis on benefits for the individual, such as when the killing of one individual would contribute to another's success. He also claims that there is an innate arbitrary segregation of who matters and who does not in ethical egoism. And this comes as a product of the issue of scope. Who exactly do you consider an entity that is individual, and who should pursue what? And this ultimately, the pursuit of what one believes to benefit them, such as like upholding the golden rule, may not necessarily result in benefits. In fact, it could actually corrode the foundation for ethical egoism by compromising individuality, such as when you were to, if you were to uphold the golden rule and let's say, intervene in the actions of someone else to attempt to reap benefits from that. By compromising individuality, you are inherently reducing the incentive to actually engage in any ethical framework or any ethical behavior pertaining to ethical egoism. Nevertheless, I find that these counterarguments don't really address the issue of ethical egoism. The integrity of the argument for ethical egoism against ethical egoism doesn't lie in the paradigm in and of itself, but rather on the integrity and the desires of the individual. This brings about certain concepts, certain devices that humans use to establish what is right and wrong. And it brings about concepts such as belief, intuition, and instinct. For instance, if one believes that something is right and ultimately attempts to pursue that in hopes of reaping benefits, that could result in some negative implications. And this is where ethical egoism fails to comply or demonstrate what is right or wrong. Ultimately, it's too vague to really demonstrate what it is that a human should do. However, there is strength in the argument for ethical egoism concerning what humans should do fundamentally. It was established as under the premise that humans are inherently social animals. And this is where I address instinct, or one's fundamental behavior, what they fundamentally know before they have been introduced to anything in the outside world. One of these instincts, if you are a normally functioning human being, which I will address further later, is to be social, is to attempt to establish a place in society. And of course, there are some exceptions to this, such as psychopaths, who are still often either shunned or, because of modern technology, treated to be able to function well in a society. Because to function for the society is to reap about benefits for the individual. We function as human beings, as social animals, and to contribute to a society would actually bring about benefits. It's arbitrary segregation of groups comes as a byproduct of not being able to establish, or just the vague nature of not being able to establish beliefs. The establishment of societies and ethical codes comes as a result of social negotiation. Therefore, one who pursues what is beneficial for him or herself will inherently pursue what is best socially. And this is why I adhere to ethical egoism. Because to contribute to your society, to take care of it, is to reap about benefits and to focus on the individual.